She's the midnight mistress of fairies and dark mischief. He's the paranormal beacon of mystic fairs and government leaking. If the dark side had a prom, they would be the king and queen. They live the metaphysical and make a wicked awesome team. From every single culture in every corner of the globe, they creep the lore and legends just to keep you in the know. For some it's hyperbole, fantastical and myth. For them it's all too real and your paradigm will shift. It's forever Halloween with all treats and no tricks. He's got a thing for witches and she's all Stevie Nicks. So welcome to our carnival of the weird and the bizarre, where UFOs and curses take shape beneath the stars. Sit back, relax, open your mind and stay a few. It's time for John and Stacey, and do we have something for you? Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your host, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And we have started some yoga.
Oh, and it's fun.
Yeah, not expecting that when you pop onto the Paranormal Sideshow, are you? Paranormal Sideshow, that show that will sometimes be about the paranormal.
And sometimes be about yoga.
Yeah, about yoga. It's the show about nothing. It's the Seinfeld of the podcast. That's what we like to do. Yeah, man. Lots of injuries have added up over the years for yours truly. Sometimes in the morning, I take about 10 minutes of cursing the gods and, 5 minutes of cursing Stacey and, 12 minutes of cursing the kids and whoever else is around, and finally get out of bed, and so something just struck me like a good old bolt of lightning last week, and I decided that's just not in my field of being comfortable.
Right.
And that would be saying, hey, let's start doing yoga. It's just not a thing for me. So
it wasn't what I expected.
Yeah, well, it made it easier that it's a former wrestler. So
yes.
Doing the DDP yoga. And I tell you, I am a little weary of people, or wary. Is it weary or wary?
Wary.
So it's wary.
Yes, you're wary of people.
What if I'm weary of them too? Like I'm tired of them?
Well, I mean, that's a good possibility. Right. That does happen.
But in this instance, you're saying I'm wary.
If you're apprehensive or suspicious or, then you're wary.
Wary. Okay. If you say it too many times, that's one of those words that sound kind of dumb. Say it.
Wary.
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 Yeah.
You can't use it now.
Yeah, no. It's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's awful.
I'm sorry. I was going to put that shirt on, but it's too wary. I don't know. I don't know, man. It's a tinny word.
Yes, it is.
It's a very tinny word. Anyway, I'm apprehensive of a lot of things like that, but gave it a try. And after about 2 days, kiddos, I started feeling pretty good. I started feeling my length go up a little bit. And I'll tell you what, it's funny because I measured a week ago and I got kind of depressed because I was down like under 6'2". And it was weird. I was like, oh my God, I'm shrinking. And so I've done this now for 4 days and not cheated. I mean, I intensely have done this for 4 days and eaten organic for 4 days. Mostly I eat organic till I don't. Organic and candy. It's okay though. Sometimes you have to have Boston baked beans, but doing this for 4 days, we measured tonight and I was over 6'2" again. I was up there pushing 6'3".
You stretched yourself back out.
Pushing 6'3". I could feel the adjustment earlier. I'm telling you, if you're out there and you're like an over the road driver or something, like something that really just destroys your back, and you feel like I do, I'm going to give a testimonial already. I may hate it next week, but right now it's worth the trial.
Well, I just think it feels really good. I've been doing it and I don't have all those injuries. I had just the one.
Yeah, the one traumatic injury.
The one place in my back.
The ejection out of it. Why don't you go ahead and tell the crew what that injury is. I don't think you've ever shared that one.
No, I was in a car accident, like 20 some years ago. And I fractured a little bone in my back and it's right between my shoulder blades, right where you can't really stretch.
Right.
Good.
So that little car accident you were in with that little fender bender.
Yeah.
What happened to you in that car accident?
Well, I believe the car flipped. It was going about 100 miles an hour.
Right.
It flipped and rolled, and I'm pretty sure I was thrown out. I don't really remember.
Right.
After I whacked my head so hard on the roof of the car because I wasn't wearing a seatbelt.
But the ambulance records that I read did state that they found you somewhere not really near the vehicle.
No, I was pretty far away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you didn't wake up for what? A few weeks?
No, I mean, I was in and out. I was only in the hospital for a week.
Okay.
But I was in and out.
With a broken back.
Yeah, I had a little fracture place on my back. I got a couple
indentions.
I've got a couple indentions that don't go away, and a few scars.
Yeah.
No, nothing major.
A slight memory loss.
Yeah, a little bit, a little concussion.
Yeah. So just a little to say Stacey is a minimalist. I had that accident.
Well, to get to the point, I never can stretch my back in that place very well. Like, it always hurts and gives me problems. And for some reason, when I do this yoga, it just really, really stretches that out. It feels great.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you would think we were getting paid by him. I wish I was. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. If you're out there and you can hear this, please feel free to pay us and we will talk about it whether we like it or not. That is a lie.
That's right. No ads. That wasn't an ad. We're really doing the yoga.
Yeah, we really are doing the yoga. So you know what else?
What's that?
There is definitely something strange about this week.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know what we're talking about, we started a new video series and it was part of like the launch of the Patreon. And that was to add more content, where we could. And of course, we don't really have the Patreon coming in yet. I do want to thank, and we will get to this in a few minutes. I want to thank those of you who have already, signed up on the Patreon. Thank you very much. And the whole goal, and as we'll talk about, the whole goal is to be able to bring more content and do this play this jam all the time and be able to bring you, a lot of content. So what we started doing is one video series that is There's Something Strange About This Week, which will be a short recap of all the stories we did on the podcast, except we'll be showing you like really cool videos about the stories as we're doing it for the YouTube. And we'll also have a bonus story on there, which, it may or may not be a story that's coming off on the next, podcast. But all in all, it's really cool. I'm really happy with the first video.
Yeah, I think it turned out really well.
If you haven't seen it, please go over to youtube.com/paranormal sideshow. We'll wait while you check out the video. All right, so pretty cool,
that was awesome.
Yeah,
I love all the pictures and stuff.
Oh my God, what a cool video.
Yeah, that was great.
Those guys are so cool. No, we had a lot of fun doing that. And we also started another video series, which is Sideshow Extras. And so far, well, I'll give you a little hint of one coming up. We're going to do little stories about things that we have talked about on the show, things that mean something to us, give you more information on them. And, we may talk about black-eyed kids at some point. We may talk about mysterious booms at some point, things like that. We've already done one, though, and you thought you were going to be safe, but you're not.
No, we did the video.
What was the first Sideshow Extra video that we did, Stacey?
It was whether or not you could hear Yanny or Laurel.
Yeah.
We had to talk about it.
Yes. So my favorite thing about the Yanny and Laurel phenomenon, okay, if you don't know about this, once again, youtube.com/paranormal sideshow. Go over there and watch our Yanny or Laurel video and you'll get all you need to know about it. So some people hear Yanny, some people hear Laurel. It's like the blue and black dress, or the white and gold, right?
Right.
Which was absolutely blue and black. But the thing about it is I've never heard anything but Laurel. Some people heard Yanny, some people heard Laurel, then they heard Yanny, then they heard Laurel again. I actually seen Raja when it changed on her the third time, run out of the room. Like, that scene in Scary Movie, like 2 or 3, when she runs out of with the, back and forth, her hands up in the air, like, ah,
right.
That was Raja. If there'd have been gasoline and a match, she would just lit herself on fire and jumped out the window. Very, very funny expression when it went back and, to Yanny for her. But I tell you,
it can really mess with your head. And my favorite part to it is when you get these, oh my God, when we got these like crazy pretentious guys on the internet, and I watched so many of these videos the first couple of days, right? Of course there's scientific reasons to it. Of course it's not weird black magic voodoo,
No,
okay?
it's an auditory illusion.
Right, exactly. And we all know that. But to have some of the people on there that actually have about as much of a freaking science degree as Bill Nye, getting on there and just trying to explain it. And they were like, turn this 40 clicks to the right, turn this to the left, slap a kangaroo, tickle a moose, and underneath the full moon, and you will be able to hear it, differently, or you'll be able to hear both or whatever. And, no, because there was one on there that had like 4 different things where someone is like, here's this, here's this, here's this. And it was like, here it is slow. And for me, it was like, Laurel. Here it is fast. Laurel. Here it is, in Japanese. It was just all there.
Right.
Still Laurel. Couldn't hear it different. And the thing was, these videos I'd watch, they were like, see? No, I don't see. No, I don't. I can only hear Laurel. Maybe that's more paranormal than anything.
Well, whether or not it's scientific and auditory illusion doesn't make it less weird.
No, it's weird.
Especially the way that it happened for us. And you can go watch our video and find out what happened with us. But it was definitely strange.
Yeah, I love strange stuff. That to me is a sideshow attraction.
You have to be careful because if you look it up now, there's a whole bunch of videos of other auditory illusions, and you can just get stuck on that stuff all day.
Right.
Yeah, because there's a lot more.
Because it's a thing.
Yeah.
And the thing we talked about on the Sideshow Extra, we could talk about now as well. And that's the fact of how you have to be cautious when you're doing investigations. And that's what we try to tie it back to that.
Right.
Because on investigations, you're going to hear different things sometimes. And, I know with me and Stacey, she never really wants to know what I hear.
Right.
She wants to try to hear it for herself and then see if it's what I've got written down.
Right.
And it's just, it works for us. So if I've got, Kingdom of Hell written down and she hears, Bojangles Chicken, it's probably not the same, and a lot of that's because I want to hear Kingdom of Hell, and and she probably wants Bojangles Chicken. That's just how that works. And so it's a really beautiful thing when we actually hear the same thing. We're very excited,
right? Because we obviously
get to keep
know
it.
what it says,
right?
Yes.
We get to keep it, and that doesn't happen that much, and that's a good thing, kids. It's a very good thing if you think you have 300 EVPs and you end up having 30,
right?
Because there's still 30 voices from dead people that under scientific conditions, that gets me thinking. So I was talking about investigations and what you use on what we use on investigations,
right?
With faithful listener and friend and the very first patron, Jeff Carter.
Yes.
And just giving a shout out right there. I know it's a bit premature to do the shout outs. We were going to wait to do the shout outs, and we'll get on to the Patreon thing here, like I said, here in a little bit before we get to the news. But anyway, Jeff and I were discussing, investigations and what I like to use, what we like to use. So I was talking about really, we're audio heavy. Very much audio heavy, and we like to do a lot of call and response. We like to very scientific conditions. We like to have a camera if possible on the recorder. So a lot of times you'll record me holding a recorder,
right?
You'll videotape me holding a recorder, and that way when we do our call and response, if we get something really good, we have video showing that there was no noise pollution. There was nothing going on there.
Right. And you can also double check the audio on the video camera.
Right.
To see if you got the same thing or if it was louder or softer or if it didn't even show up.
Exactly. Like happened to us not so long ago at the theater. We were at the theater and we were doing it, and you were using the full spectrum camera and we were having those incredible knocks. But we captured everything in such a beautiful way because we had a recorder in the room, And using the full spectrum, you could see there was no way in or out. There was nothing there. And this was complete call and response knocks directly to us. And that's not a natural noise. We know everything about that room. We had somebody there from the theater who's there all the time. So, you check all these boxes off and you're left with evidence.
Right.
And it's a beautiful thing. So we were just talking about that, and the Yandy Laurel thing got us thinking about all that again, how, it's really important to have your auditory excellence in tune,
Exactly.
When you first hear something, just for us, it's really good not to go, I think it says lipstick. Just let the other people hear, see what the consensus is. And you're not always going to like what you hear,
No, that's true.
Don't fall in love with it. I guess that's one of the...
There it is. And sometimes when people think that something says something, then that's what they're going to hear.
Oh, yeah.
Like if they have it in their head.
The suggestion.
That's absolutely what they're going to hear.
Absolutely. That suggestion really destroys it for a lot of people because you can't hear anything else after you've heard that. So, yeah, absolutely, man. But speaking of the Patreon, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. Very cool. We did the launch last week. And, thank you for everyone who has already signed up. We have a lot of cool different levels there, from $1 up to $25.
Yes.
And what happens there is you can go to patreon.com/paranormal sideshow and you can find all the levels and what they all have there. We put something cool with everything.
Right.
Already have a couple episodes of the Haunted South uploaded.
Yes. For the $5 level, you get access to our complete back catalog as we upload it. So we've already got a couple of episodes. The first 2 episodes we've ever recorded and released from Haunted South. And that was a while back, and we have much deeper Southern accents, I do believe.
Yeah, isn't that funny? So it's really funny, but we have a little bit of the agenda, if you will, from 8 years ago on a Haunted South. And this is something you can listen on the $5 level of our Patreon right now. So the first episode, Paranormal Hitchhikers, we talked a little bit about Scarefest.
Right.
We gave Reverend Robert Dale Gordon information because he was our guest.
Right.
We talked about Paranormal Hitchhikers. We talked about the website and the app.
Because we were planning it already.
Oh, dude, we were way ahead of the curve with the freaking Android and iPhone app, which it had haunted places. It had like cool memberships, cool stuff. Paranormal news. So your very first Paranormal news.
Yes, and I only did a couple of stories back then because we had the interview and we were limited to an hour.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine trying to squeeze our show into an hour.
Oh my God, no. So on the Paranormal news, you talked about the Catholic Church needs more exorcists.
Wow, that's a recurring story,
It
isn't
really
it?
really is. It really is. You talked about it. A church in Canada is the last remaining building of a vanishing village.
That sounds
It
interesting.
was deconsecrated because it has been swarmed by witches and ghost hunters and vandals after being listed as a ghost town.
Oh my goodness. That sounds like a cool story.
I'd like to follow up and see what's happened now to our first stories, Okay. Plus, Lady Gaga has spent thousands of pounds having paranormal investigators travel with her to investigate the hotels and venues she goes to before she'll stay or perform in them.
Yes.
And totally remember that story. I think we came back to that story a couple times.
Yeah, because that's still a thing. And doesn't she think that she's reincarnated of somebody in her family?
Oh, Lord, I'm sure.
Is that her?
I'm sure she does. Tim isn't there, but you talk about how much he'll love his music intro. How accurate is a K2 meter? I talk about how I prefer the Mel meter and how the K2 has room for error. And you say it's best to use it in conjunction with other equipment. I say pretty much everyone is switching to the Mel meter. And I say the K2 can be a very useful tool to try getting a spirit to light it up on command. It isn't the most accurate though.
Right.
And more talking about Reverend Gordon before he's brought on. Then the guest segment. He talks about himself and what he does. He works with children, what consists of house cleaning, what draws a paranormal hitchhiker to a person, its frequency, the ways people need to prepare themselves that they may not realize to protect against the dangers of paranormal investigating, which we came back to many times. I think I've written complete chapters on that subject. Negative entities disguising themselves to earn your trust. Preferred methods of energy healing. Do you know why a spirit attaches to a particular person? What made him approach me at Scarefest? And how people can contact him. And then just general shilling and wrapping things up. So we've changed, maybe not changed that much.
No.
But I thought it was really cute and cool about what we talked about on the very first episode of Haunted South, right? So hard to believe it's been 8 years.
Yes.
It really is.
Sounds like a very interesting episode, though.
Oh, they're all interesting. Are you kidding? If we broke them down piece by piece, they'd all sound really cool. But yeah, all that's available on the Patreon. You get to listen to the old Haunted South and then Third Side episodes on the full catalog. And that's just one small thing that we're trying to bring to spice it up. And we really appreciate it because what we want to do is bring you, the listeners, as much content as we possibly humanly can. So we appreciate every bit of the support. But you know what else you can do is you can go to paranormalsideshow.com. That's your address to find out everything Patreon. Facebook.com/paranormalsideshow, Patreon away. I don't think I've mentioned it on there. On the Twitter, it's at Sideshow97. On Instagram, Hot Patreon Damn, it's John and Stacey Edwards. YouTube.com/paranormalsideshow. That'll bring you to some really killer videos. And it's about time for the vloggy to start again. We've already got a whole full slate of vlog places to go. And I'm really serious. We have so many places to investigate that we'll be bringing you, tagging along with us on these vlogs, not to mention all the extra videos and content that we're doing and that the lovely mystical Raja is putting together for the program. So there's a lot of things going on. And with that said, folks, I think it's time for some paranormal news.
All right, so let's get to the news.
Let's not.
Okay.
I avoided it like the plague on the first part of the podcast. But because you mentioned it in our little break when we were getting ready to do the news, I'm going to talk about it. And
Okay.
I'm begrudgingly talking about this, but on our way to Walmart earlier tonight to get some ink because you needed to print out your stories. And our printer just happened to be out of ink because it's always out of ink. But we were on our way, and it's something you'll find out on There's Something Strange About This Week. We're going to do a story there that kind of talks about the land around where we live, that there's literally dead bodies under the street. I mean, just crazy stuff.
Yes.
But from hundreds of years ago. And so there's a lot of hauntings and a lot of things around here, but it's not something you see on a normal every night kind of thing. So we were driving, and I seen a girl with some black curly hair on the side of the street, and she was wearing her nightgown, and she was holding something, possibly a dolly. She looked about 14 years old. She was staring right at me. And at first, it doesn't dawn on you that someone staring right at you that close to the car is not maybe not an actual living person.
Right.
For some reason, it just doesn't. At first, it's just your mind rationalizes so quickly. And I actually mentioned it really quickly to Stacey, and I told her that I just seen, I was like, did you see that? Did you see that girl? And I was describing her hair and everything. So I look up in my rearview mirror, and as much as we did the Catherine Hill stuff and didn't really have that, I mean, we had some scary stuff happen on if you watch our YouTube vlogs, but that's one where the girl's supposed to appear behind you, right? This was back in my third row seat, but I look up in my rearview mirror, and I wasn't prepared for this, but I seen a face, and it was that girl. It was the same face. She was just staring dead right into the rearview mirror. Very scary. It really troubled me, actually.
It did.
I was really messed up.
And I saw nothing.
And I was really messed up. But then there was odd people on the road that she saw, which was just weird timing. But we get back to the house and we're about to go inside. And I told Stacey, I said, she's on me. I was like, I can feel it on me. And trying to like hop on my back, which is anybody's a long time listener to the show, even the evidence edition of the sideshow, we talked about hopping on the back and kind of like the carriers or the paranormal hitchhikers.
Exactly.
You know, to bring it full circle. And it felt like that's what's happening. I said, I feel like I'm getting attacked like right now, attached. And I was like, it hurts in my neck. So Stacey looks back on my neck. And
yes. And there was actually a red spot and 2 indentions, like very close together, just small indentions, but it looked like someone was just like pinching you really hard or grabbing on. And it just appeared. It was the strangest thing.
And it felt like somebody was pinching me.
Yes.
And so a lot of sage later. And, you know, I have no ill effects right now. I believe we did it. I believe we got rid of it. And
I'm just glad you noticed it before we came in the house. Like you noticed it while we were still outside.
Because I felt like somebody was pinching me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it felt like. It felt like somebody was trying to maybe either keep me from going inside or
come in with you.
Or trying to get in through the back of my skull or something.
It looked like it.
I don't know. I mean, it's a very strange story and I wasn't going to share it. But at the request of my dear lovely wife, she wanted me to share because she said we share everything like that. So there you go. That's non-rehearsed. You know, that's exactly how it just happened.
I did take a picture of the marks on the back of your neck. They did go away eventually.
Yeah.
But we've got a picture of it for posterity.
So now, on with the news?
Sure, let's get to the news.
Let's, please.
All right, so this first story is one that we actually did on our video last week, the Something Strange About This Week for May 16th.
You mean there's something strange about this week?
Yes, that one.
Yes.
This was the bonus story, so I'm going to go ahead and do it on here now. But anybody who watches our YouTube channel, they've already heard this.
Right.
Yeah, so good for them. All right, so this is about the memory transplant that has been achieved in snails.
Yes.
So this is some
very
research.
Slow process.
This is research that was published in the journal eNeuro, and it is really a very awesome thing that they've done. So I'm going to explain how this worked here. The scientists had a bunch of snails.
Right.
And they took part of those snails and they started applying mild electric shocks to their tails.
Right.
And when they would do that, the snails would draw their tails up.
Right.
That's kind of a defensive mechanism because they didn't want to be shocked.
Right. They're like, it's cargo. Yeah.
And I will point out that they did say that it doesn't hurt the snails, that these types of snails just release a purple dye when they are like alarmed.
Is it like pee?
Maybe. I don't know. It's like when a squid inks or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so whenever they would shock them, they would just, release that purple dye. Sounds terrible, doesn't it? Anyway, after they did that a few times, whenever they would tap them on the tails with their fingers, the snails would have the defensive mechanism.
Right.
And they, just remembered that was what was going to happen. So they had all their snails, and the ones they tapped that they shocked would draw their tails up, and then they would tap the ones they did not shock, and there was no reaction.
Right.
So then they extracted some RNA from the nervous system of the snails that they shocked. And basically this is just a molecule that kind of controls the bodily functions of the snail. And so they injected that into the snails that had not been shocked.
Right.
So then when they went back and tapped the tails of the snails that had not been shocked, those snails had the defensive mechanism that the other snails learned. So they essentially transferred that memory from one set of snails to another set of snails.
Think about that.
Which is amazing.
Think about that. Yeah. I mean, the implications are amazing.
Absolutely. And the researchers said that the cells and the molecular processes in these snails are similar to those that are in humans. So even though a human is more complex, the science is still the same. And they feel like it's something that they could eventually use, in different ways on humans as well.
I mean, just last week we had reanimated pig brains.
Yes.
And now we have memory transfer from snails. I mean, just the imagination. I mean, just thinking what you can do, and it sounds more like muscle memory, man.
It does.
That's the weird thing to me. It's more like after learning how to fight, okay, you have these instinctual defenses. Right. So if somebody's throwing a punch or something like that, you kind of, when you know what to do, you don't even think about it. You just do it. You just know.
Exactly.
And that's what that kind of sounds like.
It does. And it actually is just helping them understand kind of how memory is stored, because they've figured out now that memories are stored in a different way than what they thought. And they were asked if this was conducive to memories that people laid down through their lives, through experience and that sort of thing. And they really don't know. They don't know that yet, because it's still at the beginning. They have a lot more studying to do, but they feel like that eventually they could use it to alleviate effects from things like Alzheimer's disease and PTSD and stuff like that.
Yeah, but just to think, we're going to eventually get to a world where people that don't have money and don't have privilege will pay to have like the memories of like some rock star or something like that. Can you imagine?
That would be weird.
Yeah, be like, look, you can pay $1,000 and get this,
this amazing memory.
Yeah, this amazing.
So does
memory.
it matter? Does it matter that you didn't really do it if you have the memory that you did it?
No,
that would probably just be as good. Wouldn't it?
I think so. It's like I think it's like Fred and George Weasley when they came up with when they first opened their joke shop in Harry Potter, and they had the thing that Hermione and Ginny were looking at that was a daydream thing, and it was like a guaranteed daydream. Its last 30 minutes, the only side effects was drool and a vacant expression. And every time I hear that, I'm like, that's really awesome.
Yeah,
like I would take that and just daydream, just guaranteed.
That'd be great.
But really, we joke around about this story, but it can also be used for nefarious reasons.
It could.
If you just thinking of like the interrogation world. Okay, so what if you extracted memories against somebody's will,
right? And
to find out locations of people, locations of sleeper cells. There's a lot I can agree with would possibly be good for us, but I am very much against human right violations.
Right. Oh, this is definitely something that could be used for purposes like that. Even not extracting memories from one person, but that this is a way to implant memories. So what if you implanted memories in someone's head that they didn't really have? Maybe, this person was mean to you, or this person did something terrible to you.
Or you shot somebody prominent and then you implanted the memories in some poor person that they did it.
Right.
Dude, it's a movie.
Right. It is.
Tom Cruise is knocking on the door to this place right now going, hey, I've been in this movie. It's really weird, the world we're getting to really quickly. It feels like science fiction more and more.
Yes, that's very true.
Do you agree?
I do agree.
Like day by day, this world doesn't feel real anymore.
It's just crazy.
It is crazy.
All right, well, let's move on to another story. And this is sort of a space type story. And you're going to love this one. Do you remember when we talked about the interstellar object that came to visit us?
Yes, the first
and the
ever.
Cigar shape, and it came, and then it left, and they studied it as best they could while it was here.
Right.
Well, on this past week, astronomers said that they have identified another invasive asteroid.
Wow.
However, unlike that last one, this one has set up permanent residence. It just stays in our solar system. The asteroid is known as 2015 BZ509, and they call it BZ for short. It actually is in a retrograde orbit. So it goes backwards around Jupiter and the other planets. And the only reason it can avoid banging into Jupiter is that its orbit is egg-shaped.
It's artificial.
Its orbit is egg-shaped, and it just circuits the sun about every 11.6 years, and it's been here forever.
So why is it from somewhere else then?
Well, this is how they found that out. So they have this new method that allows them to trace an asteroid back through time to see where it came from. So they traced this one back to the beginning of our solar system, 4.5 billion years ago, and it was already there. Like, it's older than our solar system.
Right. So they say.
So it doesn't belong.
They can't tell me who built the pyramid. Or how they did it. Yet they can't tell me, all these mysteries of the world. They can't tell me what's at the bottom of the ocean, but they can tell me that an asteroid came from.
They have no idea.
Yeah.
Where it actually came from. They're still studying it, but that it's been here the whole time.
Well, okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but here's something for you. So we had our first interstellar object.
Right.
And it's a huge deal, and now we have our other one. And it's around Jupiter. Okay, so there's a lot of things going on with Jupiter.
There are.
There's a lot of things going on with the moons of Jupiter, to be more specific. And I really feel that we're about to have a huge discovery.
Right.
That is given to us about Jupiter, or a moon of Jupiter.
There has been a lot of talk about that area of the solar system.
I think it's going to happen, man. I think that we're getting ready to find out something about life of some sort in our own solar system. And I believe that life is going to be something around Jupiter, because it just feels like there's been a lot of build up to this. It seems like every few weeks we're getting a story that has something to do with Jupiter.
I'm pretty sure I have another story here somewhere that has something to do with
There's
Jupiter.
just too much on patterns here that is too weird.
Yes,
And
I agree.
It feels heavy, man. It feels like, and I know that's your bag, not mine, but
right.
It feels too heavy. It feels like there's something coming.
Well, they do say that the results suggest that there are probably plenty more of these extra solar immigrants out there that have just come into our solar system that we just haven't discovered yet. So this was pretty interesting.
Big story.
Another thing that I looked at when I was doing this story is, the last time we talked about the asteroid, the Flyby one, and we were talking about the name, and I said that it was random, and you made up and after a while it kind of bothered me, because I thought, I try to be prepared for every question you ask me. I try, and that went through me because I really didn't know how they named them, so I looked it up.
Okay.
Because I wanted to know.
I was going to make a joke about that, about BZ.
How they came up with the name. So the names, when they come like that, they're actually a temporary name. It's like as soon as it's discovered, it's given like this temporary provisional name.
Like the initials and the year that it was.
Something like that. So the first number is obviously the year that it was discovered in. And then the first letter corresponds with a half of a month. Like A would be January 1st through 15th, and B would be January 16th through 30th, and so on through the years. And then the second letter, they have the numbers 1 to 25. They use the alphabet except for the letter I, and they have A is 1, B is 2. So the second letter would be which number object that was. So for instance, the very first thing discovered in January in 2018 would be 2018 A, because it would be the first half of the month, the first object. So this particular object was discovered in 2015, because it's 2015 BZ 509. So then B, it was discovered in the second half of January. And then Z509 is actually, when you do a little math with it, is the 12,750th object that was found. That's just in the second half of January. So that's how they kind of name asteroids. They use this number and postscript system to keep track of them. And then once they've studied them and they have a lot more information about them, they'll give them a permanent name.
Right.
Or the person that found it can name them. So that's how they name asteroids. It's not random.
So it doesn't stand for like bad zebra.
I was going to ask you what you were thinking.
That's what I was hoping it was.
No, but we can say it stands for bad zebra.
Bad zebra is a great name.
Yes. Well, you need to discover your own asteroid, and then you can name it bad zebra.
Well, they haven't given it its permanent name yet. Like I want its forever name to be bad zebra.
Well, maybe we could suggest that.
Yeah. Well, it's got to find its forever home first, since it's not even from here.
I think it has a forever home. It orbits backwards around Jupiter.
Yeah,
it's decided
artificial.
That's where it's staying.
It's totally artificial. I mean, it's just watching us or watching something.
Yeah, probably us.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to our next story. And this is kind of a space story as well. And this story is about how they have new evidence that there possibly is a real Planet 9 out there past Neptune.
Is it called Pluto?
It is not called Pluto, because Pluto is not a planet. It was downgraded.
That is bad. That is just still bad. Pluto is a freaking planet.
It'll always be a planet to me.
It'll always be a planet. I don't know how they even, it's just so weird out that far, right?
It is.
There's a lot of weird things. I think that when you watch like any kind of documentary on it, there's so many things that could be
right.
a planet possibly. And
then there's all those things that they didn't even know were there, and all of a sudden there they are.
Yeah.
They had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, very strange. And most all the evidence out there is somewhat circumstantial.
It is. And this is kind of like that too, because it's not proof that there actually is a Planet 9. It's just some evidence to support the theory that there is one out there.
Right.
So they found this new object, and it's called 2015 BP 519.
Dadgummit.
Yes, one of the names again, but we know what that name means now if we looked at the chart. There's a chart.
Beside Pluto.
And so this particular object looks like it could be as big as a dwarf planet. But what's interesting about it is it's not on the same plane as our planets. You know, all of our planets are kind of on a disk plane. You know, they all sort of orbit in the same area. Well, this is at a 54-degree angle.
Right.
So one of the possible explanations for that kind of crazy orbit that this new object has is the existence of another planet far beyond Neptune and about 10 times the mass of Earth.
Which we've heard things like this many times before, and that pulls, you know, ever so slightly off course and whatnot.
Yes. So what they did was they looked at the data from the Dark Energy Survey, and they were trying to attempt to map parts of the space that's, you know, way beyond what we normally see. And they noticed that, and they noticed some odd alignments for some of the Kuiper Belt objects. And all of these things, all the simulations they did, I mean, they've been crunching numbers for years on this. And every simulation that they did could easily be explained by a ninth planet.
Right.
Like if you put that in the equation, then all of it made sense. And it was hard to make it make sense without that.
Yeah, but that's kind of lazy. That's kind of like doing a time jump in a series to make everything make sense.
Oh, yes. You love that.
Yeah.
I know that's your favorite thing.
It's like 7 years later. This is how our story progressed. No, you're lazy. You're a lazy writer. Go home.
Well, they do say that, you know, this has not been published yet. It hasn't been peer reviewed. It is just their theory and their initial findings.
Right.
But it's still pretty interesting because it's something that they've been talking about. Well, people have been talking about for a long time, that there really is a Planet 9 way out there that we just haven't discovered yet.
I always picture like the peer reviews, like the guys across the street, like the scientist on this side of the street, see the scientist on the other side of the street, and they're all wearing like these sweaters with their last initial for their last name on their sweater, you know, and they're sitting there and they're kind of like cracking their knuckles, looking over through the window to the other scientist, and you know they're like, yeah, come on, Buffy, send me your work and we'll peer review it. Come on, can't wait. I'm sure that it's accurate.
You make them sound like they're in gangs.
Oh, yeah.
Scientist gangs.
Of course they're in gangs. They're obviously in gangs. Just peer review would suck because, you know, especially if you were like a really good scientist, right?
Right.
So you're coming up with all these really cool things, but, you know, the other scientists aren't quite as hardworking as you are.
Right.
And they're kind of like stealing stuff from other people or, you know, they're like hanging on the coattails or they're like trying to do whatever,
following up on other people's work,
or trying just to, you know, keep their phony baloney jobs however they can, right and here this good scientist has to send his work or her work to them for peer review, and that's when they're just like, oh, I don't know, it doesn't look very good to me, and then they ixnay it, right, and then 2 years later they're like submitting that themselves. It just seems like a really bad formula. I think we should do away with peer review. I think it should be done.
No more peer review.
Well, either that or we have a like an agreed upon peers.
Oh, okay? Like a panel.
The panel of peers. The peer panel. And they don't actually do their own work because we've already figured out that they're just, we have to, at some point, you have to realize you're not going to make it. Okay. Right. We could clean up so much of LA just by letting some people know, you know what, honey, you're not going to be.
Let's just face the cold
You're
hard
not
truth.
going to be opposite Brad Pitt in that blockbuster. All right. But we do have something for you. All right. And the whole thing is when people learn that and they have that knowledge, then they can be part of the peer reviews.
Oh,
right?
I see.
So they no longer do they have to fight and steal and just knock other people's work. Now they're getting paid top dollar to objectively review it, right? And they have no problem. They have no problem at all with these people. I just think it would work better. I really do.
Perhaps.
Because there's too many people out there that are not as good as the other people. It's just the way, I mean.
It's an interesting theory that you have going on there.
Well, I mean, think about it. I bet there's been stuff poo-pooed many times. Well, even, you know what? It has. Think about throughout history. You always hear about, well, he found the lost city of Zed, but everybody said he was bananas.
And there are not hidden chambers in King Tut's tomb.
Exactly. Okay, I talked about my love for maverick archaeology and all these maverick archaeologists, right? Well, there's a reason for that, and it's because they don't give a flying F about what your peer review says. All these guys are just as smart as everyone else, and I think a lot of people. Now, I've got a lot of friends that are very well educated, and they spend a lot of money on something they'll never be able to pay back.
Right.
And that's called an education. But this education is all well and good. The problem is this day and time. This is a strange time we live in.
It is.
If you're dedicated, you can get an education from Google. I mean, you can get a pretty good education.
Yes.
From the internet. I mean, it's crazy. Okay.
Right.
And there's people that I follow. That are amateur, whatever.
Right.
But my God, they're not.
Right.
They have dedicated their lives all day. And they don't have to do these other courses. Like, they don't have to do archaeology and karate.
Right.
Like, they don't have to take these electives.
And literature.
Their elective is Fritos and their couch. And
I suppose you pay for that education so you can say that you're a professional and not that you're an amateur.
Yeah, exactly. You pay for that so you get to be in the books. I mean, I get why it's done, right?
Yeah, but see, this day and time, you can self-publish your own books.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm just saying that there has been the pros to this of doing it yourself. Is there has been a lot of people throughout the ages, and I'm talking to all my scientist buddies out there right now. You know who you are.
Right.
There has been a lot of people through the ages that get funding from universities, right? Or they work for a certain, organization, like a certain hospital or a certain university or campus. And that university or campus is the funding that pays their kids' college. Right? Puts food on their table. So if that university, let's just say it's a Christian university.
Right.
And they find something that, I don't know, dinosaur bones. I'm sure that was a hard one at one point. And I'm just saying, not that people would cover stuff up. Right. But there is such things like the Smithsonian. Okay? So you find a giant bone, or you find a whole freaking like you find giants playing poker, right? Okay, giant poker table, and we're talking this thing's like 10 city blocks, right? and all these giants were obviously sitting around. You find like these big humongous bongs, right? They were just having a good old giant party, right? And the university's like, well, Walter, love what you've done here. We're pretty sure that this was planted here. We're pretty sure that all of that is actually ceramics. Sir, no, I'm pretty positive that's bone, and it's kind of what I do. No, it's not what you do. You listen to us. I don't know. It's just a thought. But yes, peer review. I think we should just go ahead and hire professional peers.
There you go. I mean, that's the answer to everything.
Yeah, that don't have their own agenda. Right. They're not trying. They know that they're second best.
I gotcha.
Going into it. Well, I would be the one that would tell you. I do not mind at all. It's why I'm successful at what I do. It's like the Bruce Wayne job is only successful because I will sit in a room of people and say, you guys were good at this, and oh my God, did you suck at this? Right. I've never seen people suck worse than you. It almost is like you had a competition to see who could suck the worst, and you all won. So I want to give everybody here a prize because every other region didn't suck as bad as you.
So you're making them feel good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I give them like what they did good, and I will read those 19 things off.
Right.
And then I'll get to but I'll tell them the truth,
Well, at least once they know that, then you can just move on and make it better.
They tell me they love it. Now, they may go home and beat their animals because of what I say.
Right.
But this is why the Patreon needs to take off. And I need to stop having daily interactions with people and just be able to do the show.
There you are. All right. Well, let's move on. And this is the story about Jupiter's moons.
Another Jupiter?
Well, I got this story because of all the things we were talking about how the articles that they've been doing have been pointing to Europa and the search for alien life. And I thought that this one was really strange. So this story is actually about how they've gone through some 21-year-old data from the Galileo spacecraft.
That data can barely drink.
I know. And they've revealed some new evidence about the water on Europa. And, we've had some recent news stories about the plumes. Yes, the plumes. And so this is kind of a story about that and how they went through this old data and they found different times when the spacecraft was going through plumes that they didn't know what that was.
Right.
And now they can confirm that is most likely what's happening.
Right.
So it's not like a new discovery and it's not this huge breaking story, but they made it a point to do this story and talk about how much this could be that there's life on Europa. Yeah. And by the way, they mentioned Enceladus as well, which is also the other one that they've talked about, perhaps finding
incestuous or whatever,
and perhaps finding potential, biological life
and water.
Yes. So I'll link to the story.
So hold on. You're like the lyricist and I'm like your DJ. And sometimes I have to go back and break it down.
Okay.
Yo, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All right. So for breaking this down, here's the deal, buddy.
Right.
So how old, I'm just going to ask you a series of questions here.
Okay.
And I would like you to answer with the best of your knowledge and ability.
Okay.
How long ago did this actually happen?
This is data from 21 years ago.
21 years ago.
Yes.
Okay. So they just happened to have a fancy about going back 21 years.
Well,
do you know what it looks like to me?
Right. What does it look like?
It looks like they had somebody call them from down the hall. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they were like, well, Brian and Tracy, please report to the black room. Brian and Tracy. Did they just call for us? I believe they did. I didn't think the black room was real. It must be. All right, let's go. And then they go down there, And they're like, come in. Because it has to squeak.
Mm-hmm. Of course it does.
There, Brian and Tracy, we have to fit an agenda. We have to make everything nice and neat. Mm-hmm. We have to make it seem like we just found it. And then I don't know why I sound like Sling Blade, but we have to make it fit into our nice little narrative. So we go back and find something. I don't care if it takes 21 years worth of data. Find something that explains why there's water and why we've got giant talking octopus on this planet, because the octopus have been coming here for a while now. They're really, really mad that somebody let us know that that's them,
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I do believe in this article that if you read through
I believe in this article too.
If you read through the whole thing, the author of the study talks about how she was at this other talk listening to somebody else, and it somehow triggered the idea for her to go back and look at this particular set of data. There is a whole story there. But some of the readings that came off of this data suggested that it was going through a plume of water. And so
sorry,
there's this whole article about it now. I know.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just giving this lecture here at this community college, and it made me think of something from 21 years ago. I think I know now. Why the plumage? It's the plumage of the water.
Well, they do have that mission coming up, the Europa Clipper mission.
Yes.
So they feel like
one of the more original names they've come up with.
Yeah, at least it's not terrible. So they feel like that this could be good information to help them plan that mission out better.
Oh, yeah.
The mission where in 2022 where they actually go and finally tell us that there's
an octopus aliens. With a monocle and a top hat.
I feel that must be
all kinds of canes.
That must be when they're going to actually let it out.
Right.
So.
Well, I hope so.
I hope so eventually. But news about Europa and Enceladus, it just doesn't stop. I mean, that has to be what they're trying to get us to.
I'm telling you, buddy.
To be getting used to.
It's like I don't know. I really don't know. There's been a lot of weird news lately. Mm-hmm. But if you look at stuff, I don't know. It's like all adding up. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just all adding up to it seems like Jupiter, mm-hmm. It really does.
Yeah, I agree. It has all those moons. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so many places that it could be.
I mean, I don't know. I try to look at patterns like that, or I try to see if they're trying to cover stuff up. Like, for instance, mm-hmm. a certain well-known large church mm-hmm. just had a scandal in Chile, and
yes.
Like a day later, a certain well-known leader of said church said that another sect of people were people too, and that it was okay to be those people. I'm trying to be very non-political right now,
right?
But
right.
It seemed to me like that was like a big, because people were like, at first they were getting their pitchforks and they were lighting the torches,
yeah.
And all of a sudden he was like, well, "You're people too," and everybody's like, "Oh." Well, that's pretty cool. Did you hear that? Somebody call Scott. Somebody call cousin Scott. Let him know. Hey, Scott, you could come back. Really? Yeah, he said it was fine. He said that all these years and all these persecutions and senseless murders were for nothing. It's completely fine. So sometimes I'm just saying that things are thrown mm-hmm. a certain direction,
right,
to get us off things. And sometimes there's patterns mm-hmm. that, show us that there's a Big Dipper. Mm-hmm. I'm still thinking that the universe is trying to tell us something with that. Like there's some big pot out there that, that somewhere in the middle of the Big Dipper is where the goods are. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're like, we've been trying to tell you.
Yeah, we put a big pot here.
We put a big pot here. It's probably in the freaking pot. Oh, you humans looking up all the time like, I don't know where to look for life. Well, why don't you look in the freaking pot? We were going to make a big dartboard, but we were like, no, that's too obvious. I mean, this is at least a little bit of a challenge.
That should be kind of smart.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about China for a second.
What?
Since we're talking about space. China has decided that they are going to do a mission to the dark side of the moon.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at China. I'm not.
Well, they have actually launched a relay satellite to prepare for this mission that they're going to do, that they're going to put up on the moon.
What is a relay satellite? Is that one that like the other satellite's like dun, 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 dun. It gives the information handoff. Dun, dun, dun,
yes,
dun.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
You can't contact the dark side of the moon from Earth.
Right.
So you have to have the satellite to relay the messages around to the dark side. So they're preparing for their mission, for their rover mission to the dark side of the moon by having this up there so that it can relay the information back to them on Earth.
They should call it like Pink and Floyd, like the satellites.
Right.
I mean, Pink Floyd needs some kind of credit for this, I think. But so China goes to the dark side of the moon, and mm-hmm. they find all the pyramids and cities, and so here's okay. You want to put money on it?
Okay.
Something happens to China's satellite.
You think so? It's a communication satellite, and because they're planning on sending the rover up there this year. Like this is happening
on the dark side.
They're planning on launching something to land on the lunar surface. This year, it's going to take different scientific instruments, some experiments, some I think there was they're doing experiments with silkworms and potatoes, something about trying to grow and actually do things on the moon to eventually have.
Mine would consist of an M60 just to see, and a big hammer that would come out like a cartoon hammer to hit the bell.
Right.
Because it's hollow. Mm-hmm. You would hear it from Earth. It'd be I want to hit it so hard, it'd just be like.
I think that China's ultimate goal in the 2030s is to establish a lunar palace on the south pole of the moon, like a quote palace. I don't know what that means exactly, but they are at least going forward with their lunar mission. And in fact, a lot of countries besides the US, who is basically just doing defensive things right now, are actually courting China to try and get in on their research and to, go with their launches. And, the United States, they don't work with China in space because their space program's all military. Right. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when they actually get the launcher up there.
I think we already know what's up there. And I'm just saying that I think something mysteriously happens to China's satellite and they're just waiting. And some guy named Buck Maverick is gonna be making sure that not saying what country he's from, right, but he's listening to God Bless the USA and freaking shooting down Chinese rock. I'm just saying.
Well, it's already been launched, so if something's gonna happen to it, it's gonna have to.
Oh, this guy's from the Martian Force.
Yeah.
I'm diving in on this one. I think we already have some stuff going on up there, right. But I don't know, buddy. It's interesting. It's if they do get to the dark side of the moon, it'll be interesting to. I mean, I'll be very disappointed if we get to the dark side of the moon and it's a bunch of moon dust
and there's nothing there.
Yeah. After all this stuff, because you got to think what happened with the astronauts, right? So if they were actually there in the first place,
right?
But when the astronauts went around the dark side of the moon, they cut all that stuff out supposedly or whatever, but they heard music and that stuff you can still find in the transcripts. You can still get all that stuff. They heard weird stuff, man. Very puzzling things, and there's just been so much about the dark side of it, and the moon in general. The moon is just like this, and it's so haunting because it's just always there, and since the dawn of time, man, this. Or since the moon's been there, since it came into this orbit, artificially, we've sit and stared at it,
Well, it's funny you said that about the music, because another thing that China sent up with this communication satellite is this antenna that was actually developed with help from the Netherlands or something like that. And the purpose of the antenna is to be launched behind the moon to hopefully pick up signals that normally can't be picked up because of the atmosphere.
Right.
So that's interesting that they're planning on sending an antenna. It's called an antenna behind the moon.
They're going all out, and our space program is pretty much the NASA part of it is just it's sad, but you've got these wonderful geniuses. I mean, I feel like we're at this really cool time, a time we haven't been at in a long, I think we're back Edison and, all these inventors, right?
Right.
It feels like we're in that time, of Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and, those guys are going to be the ones that take us to the next level with, with the space travel and because they're dreamers, man. They're especially, how much I love Elon Musk, except for the self-driving car.
Right.
And that may have something to do with the Bruce Wayne job. I'm just saying. But other than that, he comes up with some wonderful ideas, man. I love it because he's crazy. I love the guy because he's nuts and he doesn't give a crap. No. He really doesn't. So I really admire that. And I just think we're at a really exciting time in human history for so many reasons, right? I mean, we turn on the news and we see robots dancing polkas. We know that we're creating our future overlords because when they learn how, I mean, they're almost to the point where they can create themselves.
Oh yeah,
and they can think and problem solve, and they're going to figure out that we're inferior.
Oh yeah, very quickly.
And it's just happening, right? But it's still a cool time, except for the enslavement. It's going to be awesome, just to see it happen.
Right.
I don't know. It's pretty cool. And I think that we're going to learn before that happens. I think something will happen, and you'll have like the first, we had a few stories last year about some AI playing games and getting angry,
right,
and learning how just to kill the other one or something. I think a few of those things will happen.
Oh, I'm sure.
And then we're going to have the shutdown, right? We're going to have the safety features. I believe it's kind of like teaching, card games to a chimp.
Right.
When the chimp starts learning how to hide aces up its sleeve, it might be time to quit training the chimp.
Right. And question why it's wearing a shirt in the first place.
We better be wearing a shirt if it's playing cards with me. I'm sorry. You could be a chimp or a person. It doesn't matter. You better have a button up if you're going to sit at the table with me.
You have standards, right?
I have high standards. I have very high standards, especially when I'm playing with monkeys. When I'm playing with monkeys, they all have to be dressed up.
Only the best dressed monkeys for you.
Oh my God. Can I have one yet?
No.
All right. Continue then.
All right. Well, I'm pretty much done with this space stories. I did want to mention, though, a cool local story is we saw the story recently where there's been an uptick in UFO sightings in Maine, and especially around Bangor. Yeah. And so I'll actually link to an article because it tells you where to go to see where all of those sightings happened. And it's just one of those UFO reporting, websites. Right. But it's been a lot this year.
It's a flap. It's a flap. It's I credit the It movie's success. I feel that it's drawn in the UFOs, and they're all wanting to take like the scenic trip. There
you go. It is vacation season. It's vacation land.
Vacation land. Why not bring some UFOs in?
All right. Well, let's move on to a conspiracy theory story, and this is the article about how there's new research that says that Adolf Hitler definitely died in World War II.
You know what's really weird about this?
What's that?
Tim Kennedy, MMA fighter extraordinaire, G.I. Joe action figure in real life. He's a patriot, special forces guy who had 3 seasons of hunting Hitler. Just recently wrapped up, I believe, on History. I believe it was on History. And they were, all over Argentina, and they were all over South America. They were looking everywhere for all these places. And the crazy thing was, he was talking on Joe Rogan's podcast recently about the fact there was like full towns there that only speak German. Right. Like modern day, you go there and you try to speak the native tongue, it's not going to happen, bro. They're German, right? Right. And so you've got this crazy like Nazis just escaped, and they had these like the underground Nazi railroad to get there to hide them or whatever, and they've been there for generations and generations. So everything made sense as to why and how this could have escaped. So I also think it's just strange that last year we had the JFK file dump. Okay, and obviously not all of them. Right. But in there, there was the accidental, file that was put in there with the Hitler story. Right. And, just to recap that a little bit, it was like Hitler may have escaped Germany for South America, say CIA memos from the JFK files. And, it talks about it's regarded as historical fact that, he died in the bunker or whatever, by Allied forces. But a handful of recently declassified CIA documents unveiled that the highly anticipated JFK files, blah, blah, blah. And it goes on to talk about how this agent was talking to somebody who was saying that, he was talking to a former German SS trooper who was saying that Adolf Hitler was still alive and couldn't be prosecuted as a war criminal anymore because it had been more than 10 years since World War II had ended at the time. So there was a lot of stories, and there was even a photograph that was in those files, someone looking like Hitler. Right. So it just kind of added something, fuel to the fire with all these stories and all these documents they had, and the fact they had these whole towns of of stuff, you know, and it supposedly the Russians had picked up the body, I know, like originally, and they were really stiff about letting anybody do anything with it. But I don't know, man. Like, here's my deal with it. There very well could be the fact that it's all just a conspiracy theory. He's dead. Arguably the most evil person ever in the history of the world. So there's always that fear, right? That the guy's still, you know, that he escaped or,
right.
you know, or something like that. Because here's the fact. We had Operation Paperclip, okay? Nobody knew at the time. And we took all these giant, big brain, von Braun, started our space program.
Right.
You know, we took all these Nazi scientists, right? So, excuse me, but it's not that far-fetched considering we already know that you did it.
Right.
We already know that you brought these war criminals over here to let them, you know, use their minds or whatever, right? So call me wacky, but there is the possibility that something could get loose if this dump from the files last year got people thinking too much or looking in too much. You got this History Channel show.
Right.
Then what are they going to do? Oh, I know. It's going to be kind of like Area 51, which for 50 years they're like, nope, it does not exist. It absolutely does not exist. There's no such place. And then a couple years ago, oh, it exists. It's just that there's nothing crazy there. Yeah, absolutely, it's a place. Yeah, I mean, we were just kind of kidding. I mean, we were just like in jest saying that it doesn't exist. But as soon as they come out and they say that, then your places like CNN, they're just like, well, it does exist, but there's nothing there. And this reminds me of that, okay? Maybe it's completely factual. I'll let you get to the story and get the actual story. People can decide for themselves. It just smells like a rat. Right. Because those other things came out. And you know what? Here's the funny thing. This has happened before. I thought Adolf Hitler died in Germany until this story. until they come out to give us final proof. Right. And absolute proof, and it's worded like that too. Right. It's worded with finality.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It says he definitely died.
Yeah.
In World War II.
With finality. You know what? It's saying, hey, Stacey, don't worry about finding out for yourself. Don't look into this because we tested it. And of course you can trust it because we've written this down. So you can trust it, Stacey. Don't worry about it. He's dead. And he died there. You know, he died there. He didn't die in South America. Right. So continue. I'm just get off my soapbox. All right. But you can see, does that make any sense?
Yes, it makes sense. It makes sense. Okay, well, this new research was done by some French researchers, and the French team was headed by Professor Philippe Charlier.
Jean-Paul Luc.
I actually don't know if that's how you say that. I just wanted to make it sound French. He said the infamous leader died inside his Berlin bunker on April 30th, 1945, due to two probable causes: cyanide poisoning and a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So the reason they say this is they had his skull and some teeth. These are the remains that were left. And they say that Hitler's skull has a hole on the left side that suggests the gunshot wound. And when they studied his teeth, the teeth have bluish deposits that were suggestive of cyanide poisoning. Ooh. Now, they know that the teeth are definitely genuine, that they're definitely Hitler's teeth. Know that they actually belong to Hitler is what it says. And
did he have little H's carved in them, or?
I guess DNA. I don't know. I'm just telling you what the study reads.
I mean, based on the DNA that they found at the time from the bones that were there, that was a fake body. I'm just saying.
Right. I understand what you're saying.
Because that to me, again, if they're saying, oh, it's exactly the same as what we found there. Yeah. Well, duh.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the guy that had the research, he claims the teeth are authentic, that there's no possible doubt that they're not authentic, and that their study proves 100% that Hitler died in 1945. Okay. So, and they published it. And they said that in the past, there were all these conspiracy theories, of course, that Hitler escaped to Argentina or some other South American country. There was also the one that perhaps his corpse was set on fire, that it was hidden by the KGB, or that it was dug up and moved around so nobody could find it.
So then the scientist went on to say, Das Führer has not,
Exactly. So according to this research team and this report, died in 1945.
The research team was mysteriously all blonde-haired with blue eyes.
Strangest Frenchman I ever saw. I don't know.
Yeah, they're totally going to be like, the Führer, the Hitler, we know it's his teeth because they were perfect and white and absolutely,
It does say in the story that his teeth showed no traces of tartar or meat particles because it meant he was a vegetarian. That's kind of like saying his teeth were perfect, right?
Oh my God. There's a bunch of Nazis in disguise.
Nazis dressed up as Frenchmen.
It's a plot for a movie. It's like, we got to get them off the trail. Oh my God.
Wow. Okay.
Sorry if I offended any. Well, I'm not. I don't care if I offended the French. So.
You didn't offend French, just Nazis pretending to be French.
Yeah.
So that's all.
I like French Canadians.
I hope so.
I married one.
Okay, so this next story is about a mysterious sea creature that washed up on a beach.
I don't know why I sound like Sulu right there.
Philippines.
Ooh. I can't even repeat. I can't do that one again. Ooh.
This is an enormous hairy blob that washed up.
Sounds like my 10th grade science teacher.
Nobody knew what it was. They claimed it looked like a globster.
Excuse me?
Yes, that's the terminology in the article, globster.
A globster?
Yes, because it was just this big...
No, I get it. I get it.
Well, it didn't have a definite shape, and it smelled terrible, and so they had to come...
It is my 10th grade science teacher.
They had to come and take some DNA samples.
Or some Dana samples.
Something like that. And so that they could
I love
test
Dana
them.
samples.
And they said it's around 4 feet wide at one end and about 2 feet wide at the other. It's a grayish white color. And it just was very weird looking. It looked like it had hair. Now, what the official explanation is right off the bat is that it's a whale that has washed up and is just kind of decomposed before it hit the beach.
With the hair.
Now, like the muscles are decomposing. It looks like hair. It doesn't look anything like a whale when you look at the picture. It doesn't look like anything. It just looks like a big
I know what it is.
blob of nothingness.
I think it's the informant that gave somebody the smarts on the octopus being aliens, and a whole big tribe of these octopus came around.
And now it's up on the beach. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Well, even the officials said for now we can say it's a whale, but we don't know what exact species, which is why they did the DNA samples. And the local government is just going to bury it and be done with it. So I don't know.
Let's give it
very
a good
strange.
Christian burial.
Now all the people in the area all claim that it's a bad omen. That when the depths of the sea start spitting things up onto the beach, that's a sign that something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
So
it's a rock gobster. I don't know. It's really crazy, man.
Yeah, and you need to go look at the pictures because the pictures are really weird.
They should cook it.
Really doesn't. No. Oh, as bad as it smells? No,
yeah.
No, you get sick.
Well, you could use it as ointment or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Would you want to? You're trying to just repurpose it, aren't you? You don't want to just bury it in the ground.
Well, I'm afraid to bury it. I'm afraid it's going to come back.
Zombie whale.
Yeah. It just sounds disgusting.
Yes. And apparently it smelled like it was from another planet.
The DNA's not.
I didn't find anything on the results of the DNA. I feel like we're not going to hear anything about that.
Well, we'll hear about it if it's a whale.
Maybe. Or maybe they'll just brush it under. They buried it. So, nobody will remember this anymore. We've buried it in the ground.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Probably never hear about it again, but it is very odd.
It is.
It is very odd. All right. So, I have a couple of more stories here for you. This one is really funny. I liked this one. And this is a Facebook post that was put up by the North Ridgeville Police Department. That's in Ohio. And they claim that at 5:26 in the morning, they received a call from a man who stated that he was walking home on Center Ridge from the train station and that he was being followed by a pig. And he didn't know what to do. So, of course, the police thought that he was drunk. And so they sent, a car out to go get him, make sure he's going to be okay, and make sure he, left the bar fine. He could get home okay. And when they arrived, they found a very sober person being followed by a pig.
Was the pig sober?
I am not sure. I'm not sure they gave the pig a sobriety test.
I'm picturing the pig in like a trench coat. You know when Miss Piggy was trying not to be seen?
Right.
And she would have like the big sunglasses on.
Yes, and the collar
and
up
the collar up on the trench coat. That's what I'm totally picturing, following this guy with his little feet, like, going down. Okay, so what did we talk about last week on the show?
About the strange animal behavior?
Well, that and pig brains?
Yes, pig brains. Pigs are smart.
Yeah.
Pigs are very smart.
I mean, now we have a freaking pig stalking some poor bloke on a...
I'm telling you, it just started following him. What was a pig doing at the train station anyway?
Well, it's Ohio.
Well, the Facebook post went on to say that one of the officers managed to wrangle the pig or get the pig or, grab the pig and put it in the police car, and they took it to the police station and put it in one of the dog kennels, and they did update and say the pig has been returned to its owner.
Right.
So I don't know how they found the owner of this stalking pig.
It's really hard to tell.
They did take a picture of the pig in the police car, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And ironic.
Well, no, that is funny. I'm sorry. There was a pig stalking a guy.
Yeah, it was.
And he calls 911.
Yeah. I know. It was just a little pig too. It wasn't like a great big like hog. So
you said big hog. Sorry.
I mean, what would you have done if you started walking in the middle of the night and all of a sudden
Make
you were
bacon.
being followed by a weird animal? Would you call the police?
I would run like a little girl. Are you kidding?
From the pig?
Yeah, are you kidding? And it would have just got where it would have escalated because it would start making a squeal and say, "Pigs are terrible, dude. Pigs are mean. Pigs will eat you."
Well, I know hogs will because of that saying. Yeah. That's a real thing, right? If you fall down, they'll actually eat you.
Yeah. For real, yes.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, they will eat you. There will be nothing left. There will be no evidence.
No.
Except for the shoes.
Which somehow make their way to
British Columbia. It's all the stories are mixing in.
Wow, we figured it out now. We figured out why that happens.
We should just write a novel where we connect all the weekly stories, all the recurring ones.
All right, well, this last story is from Pennsylvania. And this is a story where
Are you telling me that as if that's supposed to be better?
No. The police had...
It can't possibly be as weird as that Ohio story.
We're getting a little more east. It's a little better.
Steeler fans.
So the police in Springettsbury Township, which is in York County...
What is that? Springettsbury's? That's...
It's called Springettsbury Township.
Springettsbury. Oh, not plural.
No.
That sounds like how I feel when spring rolls around. Just when it's been too long. Springettsbury's.
So in this township in Pennsylvania,
right,
someone gained access to one of those electrical signs, traffic signs on the side of the road, and they changed the message so that
happened before.
When you drive down the road, it said "Zombies ahead, run!" with big exclamation points.
We had that like years ago. We had that story.
It's been done before, and it happened again. And this is actually the second time that these signs have been hacked. The first time, the message was kind of vulgar, and they didn't print what it said.
Oh.
It was a different message board, and they printed something vulgar that they couldn't print in the news.
I would have done something with dashes that made it like a penis shooting things out. Like, if I was,
so there probably wouldn't have been a picture of your sign
if I was taking the time. So what? This is completely like a. Do you have more? Is there more to that story?
Well, I was just going to say that the police posted a picture of it on their Facebook page, and somebody asked if there was an actual report of zombies, how would we be alerted? And they informed them that they use the color-coded zombie alert system, and right now they're at green, which is low. threat of zombies, and that if it ever escalated into orange, they would definitely, offer further instructions. So they did start padlocking their road signs.
So let me tell you. Let me tell you how you're going to know if we have any of our lovely fans from Pennsylvania listening right now. So the way you're going to know is if there's a zombie alert in that town is the cops will be going about 120 miles an hour and they'll all look very pale and they'll be going the opposite direction out of town. So that's definitely how you'll know. Speaking of zombies, the new State of Decay game came out.
Yes.
It's gonna have to be played.
Yes, I think so.
If you have never played State of Decay, play the original and of course play the new one. So I was just wondering.
Yes.
And I know you don't know this.
Okay.
It's just more of a wonder. I wonder if they're still putting up this flat Earth signs, the billboards.
I don't know.
Where was that at?
They've actually had them in several big cities.
Big cities.
Yes. I haven't seen a report on any new ones yet.
It's just odd because I haven't heard a whole lot from the flat earthers lately.
No, I haven't.
But we were getting a whole lot of flat earth stories. And then they just sort of...
There was a convention recently, not in America. I think it was like in England or somewhere there. They did have a flat earth convention. So maybe everybody was just busy.
Yeah.
Maybe all the flat earthers were just busy
maybe,
doing their convention-y things.
Maybe they'll circle back around and we can talk about it.
Perhaps.
I'd like to have a flat earth story if you can find one.
Okay.
Some kind of update.
I'll look.
It's especially Hollow Earth. That's my deal. I really like the Hollow Earth story. We got some Hollow Earth stuff coming up soon anyway.
Yes.
With some of the special sideshow things we're doing. So I don't know, some good news. Thank you. All right. Well, that was a really crazy night.
Yes, I agree.
This one was a strange show for different reasons. Funny, but strange.
Some odd news.
Can't really explain.
I don't write the news. I just have to find what's out there.
I know, and you do a damn good job of it, considering you come up with the news weekly. And then think about how strange the world has to be.
Yes.
For us to find that much content.
You should see some of the stories I pass up on.
Yeah, I would be scared to, actually. I'm sure most of them are in some of those crazy British newspapers that have all the... I mean, they post some really nutty stuff.
They do. There was this one story that I passed up on, and I considered taking it, but it was mostly just pictures, and it's hard to talk about just pictures, so I might put it in the video. But it was this guy who took a picture at this particular park, and it looked like he said he looked like he caught a Victorian woman image in his picture that he didn't notice until later. And this particular newspaper had an article, a few years ago where a woman claimed that she caught the image of a Victorian woman in the water, and it was the same place. And then there was another one from the same place where someone else claimed that they caught an image of this Victorian woman, and supposedly there's a story that a Victorian woman died or drowned in that area. But all of the pictures, when you look at them, what I thought was interesting about them is it wasn't like just an apparition. It was like the light was in the shape of a woman, or somehow the environment was suggestive of
we've talked about that
this
before.
Womanly shape, which I thought was really interesting, but it's kind of a hard story to convey without showing the pictures.
I think you did a good job just now.
But it was a really interesting story, so I thought about just...
But we've talked about that. We've talked about that just because it's a light shaping into a woman doesn't mean it's not paranormal.
Right,
because it could be the paranormal
using what was around
available
to manifest
Absolutely.
Or whatever. So it was kind of a cool story.
Well, there was another cool story too that we passed up on, and that was the one that made the rounds everywhere with the angel over top the pickup truck on the security camera at the house.
Yes, the motion security camera.
The motion security camera. This one made Good Morning America was talking to the people there. There was a preacher who has a book that where he died and came back and talked about his experience there, which was way different than some people's experiences, like John Tenney, who was nothing. But it looks like a moth to me.
That's what I thought when I saw it too. Just really close up to the camera.
It was like the first reaction that I had was a moth. And I'm not easy to dismiss things.
Right.
But the very first gut reaction when I seen this, and guys and girls, it won't be hard to find if you want to find this. It's very simple because Stacey will link to it on paranormalsideshow.com.
I will. And they're calling it an angel.
Yeah, they're calling it an angel. And yeah, when you look at it, it looks like your traditional, thinking of an angel, right? And maybe it is. Maybe it is. It just, I'm just saying that the first gut reaction Stacey and I both had was that of a moth, really close to the lens. But I would like to see some more expert analysis on it.
Right.
No, we were watching the Fox News story, and we were like, oh hell, they're doing a lot of interviews on this and everything, and they're like, oh, now we're going to talk to an expert on the subject, and it was the pastor. I was like, I was waiting for like a photography expert,
right, like a videographer or somebody that could explain how this could hit on the film, but no.
The angel experts where they went. We're like, no, we get that part. Yes, we're talking about the other things it could possibly be. But speaking of other things it could possibly be, paranormalsideshow.com, that's your address to find everything angel. Oh, it's so not. On Facebook.com/paranormalsideshow, more angels. On the Twitter, it's at Sideshow97. We're just a big band of angels. Instagram, Hot Angel Dam. It's John and Stacey Edwards on YouTube.com/paranormalsideshow. You find all kinds of cool videos, including our new series, There's Something Strange About This Week. And all kinds of like sideshow extras as well. And as we were talking about before, on our Patreon, be a patron. It's patreon.com/paranormalsideshow, and we have all kinds of different levels. We have levels all the way down to $1 and all the way up to $25, and we got cool little things at every level, and it'll explain to you when you go to Paranormal Sideshow Patreon. So we appreciate every bit of support from you guys and girls, and all the likes and the shares and the sunnies. Thank you so much. From my lovely wife, my name is John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.
Hey guys, if you like what you've heard, please check out paranormalsideshow.com and follow the links for our weekly podcast. Also, become a sideshow off yourself and pick one of our killer levels on our Patreon to help support the channel and help keep us bringing you bigger and better content. So until next week, for my lovely wife Stacey, I'm John Edwards. So long and
stay strange.